Hello, I'm Dan Brunton. Welcome to the Connection podcast series. In this, the third part of a series that we've been recording with Neil Osment of NOA, we're going to be looking at the issues surrounding sustainability and also the hot topic of single-use plastics, SUPs. Obviously, there's a lot of impact due to the COVID situation and how consumers regard both of those issues. So in this session, we're going to be looking, as I said, at sustainability and SUP. Welcome back. It's great to have you with what is now part 3 of our series that we're doing with NOAA. And with this session, we're going to be looking at the issue of sustainability and obviously the big issue that the industry is battling against at the moment, the dreaded single-use plastics, etc., with the various directives that are happening across Europe. So Neil, maybe we could start by looking at the public mood at the moment. Can you give us a feel for what your research is showing you in terms of how the public is perceiving SUP?
Thank you, Dan. Yes, yeah, will do. I think before COVID, and we'll be talking about this for years to come. Before COVID, what was happening, and there was an enthusiasm for sustainability, and there was a momentum. That all has been wiped out pretty well. And for sensible reasons. COVID has brought people saying, but I need food. And the way that packaging businesses have been able to deliver that food has entailed plastic. And so actually there's been a move back with plastic as a result. What has happened, so the necessity of food rather than thinking about the environment. What has occurred in the last few months is that people have come back to this. They've settled down to life in a COVID world and now saying, actually, we still need to be able to do this. And we've noticed, and particularly in probably the last 6 to 8 weeks, the likes of Sir David Attenborough is getting good publicity and a good view, as well as the likes of Greta Thunberg and more home-produced enthusiasts, like the plastic soup surfer, for instance, here in Europe. So yeah, I think it's starting to come back, but was definitely off the agenda for some months.
And Neil, I mean, even if we just look at the basics of during the COVID sort of pandemic era, we've all noticed fewer trucks on the road, fewer cars on the road, which invariably is going to have a positive impact in terms of cleaner skies, cleaner air, etc. Do you think this is sort of getting back on the agenda with consumers now?
Yes, I definitely think so, and I think it's coming back on the agenda because there's a date coming up. So the single-use plastic directive in Europe was taking effect in 2022. So and they're very, very strong about the requirement. So that's the first thing, is this thing isn't going away, and for every part of Europe, and I would include the UK as part of that, we have rules that we adhere to, and SUP is one of those. So it's coming. The second thing is, I think the impact of SUP is going to be significant. At the moment, I know the carton industry are particularly lobbying hard to be able to have their voice heard. But I know that the corrugated industry are following very, very closely behind in the same activity to make sure that our paper industry is heard. And the reason why it's so important is because rather than it being the single-use plastic directive, what seems to be occurring, and a lot of people that I'm talking with are reflecting this, it's actually becoming the single-use packaging directive informally, and so paper packaging is under the spotlight. And what does that mean? So for instance, if you had a sandwich pack which has got, say, 5% of plastic in it, that is under the spotlight as a product that will need to be banned. So actually it's pretty serious, both for cartons and corrugated. And we need to be aware.
So Neil, I mean, effectively, you've brought the discussion quite sort of nicely closer to home, as it were, in terms of, you know, the struggles that we're going to be facing within the sort of paper-based packaging sort of industries. But I mean, you know, there's also the implications of, you know, what's going to be happening with curbside collections and PRNs, etc. So, what are your views on that aspect of the whole debate?
Yes, I mean, what you're also saying is not only have we got the European directive in place that's saying this is going to happen and making the situation quite complex, we also have had a massive change in the way that we shop. So retail, bricks and mortar shopping, moving much more towards online shopping, has increased the amount of corrugated that we consume. No longer does it go to the supermarkets, who've got a very robust and well organized system to collect the waste. It's now going to curbside, to our homes. And this is happening both in Europe and in North America, and it's a massive problem. Curbside collection has increased hugely. The impact of that is that PRNs, which in Europe is our way of being able to pay a levy towards the recycling of products, PRNs are being charged to various companies in the supply chain, packaging companies being one of those that currently get charged. It's looking like as much as a 20-fold increase in the cost of PRN. So we're not just in difficult times about what is an SUP item, a single-use plastic or single-use packaging item, and how that might impact on the industry. We're also like to have huge costs. So this is really serious for our industry.
So I guess then the question is, Neil, as an industry, what can we do to overcome these shortcomings and the issues that we're faced with? And obviously it's a mounting series of issues. So, I mean, what can the industry do? I mean, if we start looking at things like lightweighting and right sizing, I mean, are these going to be the savior of us?
I think, Dan, as you say, right sizing, reduction in materials, improvement in performance of papers, all those things are going to be putting us in the right direction for constructively moving forward. I think that's a start for sure, and you know, we already have that. We have some fantastic organisations who've set up, not just in the UK, not just in Europe, but are setting up around the world. At least 2 leading companies that I know of who are setting up these design centres in order to be able to look at lightweight, look at waste reduction, look at ways of being able to save material. So I think we're already doing the right things. It's about getting your shoulder behind that with brand owners and doing much more of it.
And Neil, it's interesting that you were talking about design centres and actually helping the brand owners understanding about the benefits of lighter weight, possibly recycled materials. We did a podcast recently with the CEO of Saika, and part of that conversation was around their move into the North American market, moving in with their very sort of European operating standard. And of course, that centers very much around recycled liners, it's lighter weight papers, etc. And I know that we've talked about it very briefly before, but you know, it's very similar in that sort of view from, you know, the DS Smiths and the Smurfit Kappas, who've also come into North America. Do you again feel that that there is going to be a significant move in the North American market over the next 5 years towards higher recycled content, lighter weights and microfluids?
Dan, I think it's inevitable. I mean, the American market has been high specified. In one of our earlier podcasts, we talked about the freight requirements that if you want to transport products in North America were very high and very high standard. In the last few years, the postal system and the freight auditors in America have looked at the standards and said, actually, we can use other materials. We should be able to do that. And therefore, recycled materials have been given the thumbs up to be used. As a result of that already, I think we talked again in a previous podcast about the number of fine graphic paper mills that are being converted to corrugated, that material being able to be much narrower, or sorry, much lighter and much thinner, and in many instances being able to perform the same job. So for sure, there's going to be, I think, an increase in recycled material in the North American market, and there will be a continued leadership in Europe for the same thing. We've been leaders for the last 20, 25 years on recycled materials because we've had to. It's easier to collect the materials that we've got in Europe. There's not the same raw materials, trees. So we've had to, and we've been very good at it. So I think that's going to carry on. There's an element here of our industry has actually raised its profile really well. Again, a theme that I return to. We're no longer what about a cardboard box? The lastminute.com idea. We're very much regarded as a very well regarded, well thought through partner for brand owners. And so the relationships we have with brand owners are very well developed, and the design skills and design facilities that we've got are also very well regarded by brand owners. So I think we're well poised to be able to help and support the move away from plastic materials and move towards much more environmentally friendly paper, fiber-based products. So we've got the structure in place and the standing. So I think it's very, very positive. We're an agile industry. We're very flexible. And I think all those things mean it's a very positive opportunity for us in the paper packaging industry for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
And Neil, it's quite interesting because I saw a press release coming across my desk just recently that came from DS Smith, in actual fact, that was talking about a development. They've partnered with a company from North America, in actual fact, that has developed this product called Climacell. And obviously it's a paper-based insulation solution that Smiths are rolling out with for sort of shipping of chilled goods and foods, etc. So, I mean, do you feel that that's just like one good example of how our industry can positively benefit from this sort of reaction to the SUP?
I think it's a classic example. I mean, what we're in this debate about single-use plastic, it's a very complex one, and I think that perhaps people who don't understand our industry have taken quite a simplistic view towards things. So the idea of being able to reduce the amount of plastic that we have in a product is very important, and I think the Climacell product is a great example of that. It's increasing the amount of friendly paper materials, it's reducing the amount of plastics, and it's allowing people to be able to do what they want to do, because there is a change in the way that people are shopping. People are now having deliveries at home much more, and we know particularly in Europe and in North America, that's become very popular to have chilled and frozen goods delivered to you. So a product like Climacell, and there are a number of products that are being developed in North America, but this sounds like it's a great innovation for Europe. There's a number of companies that have been created as a result of the home delivery chilled service, and Corrugated's leading the way again in this brand new system. I think it's a great innovation.
And Neil, just to sort of wrap up this this particular session, looking at sustainability and the issues that we're facing with single-use plastics, obviously as a very mature and conservative industry, the trade associations have all been doing a really good job at sort of promoting the benefits of corrugated, of recycled paper, etc., etc. But it seems that there are other industries that possibly are taking a more aggressive stance and possibly throwing more money at it. Because when you look at the effective lobbying power of the oil-based and the plastics industries, it seems to be that they've got a louder voice than we have. What do you think we can do about that as an industry? How do we change that perception?
I mean, I think what you're saying is very true, Dan, that other industries have had, they've been speaking about this subject, and perhaps a bit of miscommunication in some instances. And what we've come is a little bit late to the party, or at least our voice has been very quiet. What has encouraged me is that I've seen both in the carton and the corrugated industry, particularly in Europe, we've become a lot more vocal, and we've been standing our ground, which is great. So I think for sure it is about speaking about the subject. It is about, I think, what's the phrase that's been developed? It's sort of fake news. I think there's been quite a lot of fake news, and actually, we've just come the other side of the American election. Hopefully, the whole idea of truths and things that are definitely the case will come through, and I think the paper industry will benefit from explaining very clearly what the corrugated and carton industry are able to do with paper, and I think that's very exciting for the future for us.
Great. Well, Neil, thank you so much indeed. Successfully rounding off the third of our series there, looking at the dreaded issues of single-use plastic and how as an industry we take that to the consumers. So Neil, thanks ever so much indeed, and we'll look forward to connecting with you again very soon.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Thanks very much. Look forward to speaking to people on our next podcast.